In the late 4th century, the Roman Empire stood as a colossus astride the known world, its territories stretching from the windswept coasts of Britannia to the sun-drenched sands of Egypt, and from the turbulent waters of the Atlantic to the ancient lands of Asia Minor. Within these vast dominions, the Pax Romana had endured for centuries, a testament to the might and ingenuity of Roman governance and military prowess. Yet beneath the surface of this grandeur, subtle fault lines began to emerge, whispering of a coming storm. As the empire basked in its imperium, pressures mounted along its distant borders. The frontiers, once bastions of strength, now felt the weight of restless tribes, the Goths and Vandals among them, whose movements were spurred by a mixture of necessity and opportunity. These migratory waves, drawn towards the riches and relative stability of Roman lands, gathered like clouds on the horizon, their presence a harbinger of change. It was a time when the empire's vastness, once its greatest safeguard, became a source of vulnerability. The sheer scale of governance required a delicate balance, maintained by the flow of resources, the loyalty of provincial leaders, and the strength of Roman legions stationed at the empire's edge. Yet, all things built by human hands are subject to the ravages of time and fortune, and Rome was no exception. As the 3rd century turned to the 4th, the initial murmurs of unrest began to grow, setting the stage for an era of upheaval and transformation. Thus, with the empire at its zenith, the seeds of decline were sown, set to unfurl with the inexorable passage of time. In the year AD 376, an event of great portent unfolded along the banks of the mighty Danube River. Here, at the very edge of the Roman Empire, the waters reflected not only the sky above, but the anxious faces of a displaced people, the Goths. Driven from their homelands by the relentless advance of the Huns, these migrants found themselves at the river's edge, seeking refuge within the borders of Rome. Negotiations ensued between the Gothic leaders and Roman officials, an intricate dance of diplomacy shadowed by desperation and mistrust. The Goths, numbering in the tens of thousands, sought permission to cross the river, to find sanctuary and sustenance in the fertile lands beyond. For the Roman Empire, granting such a request was fraught with peril. Yet the decision was made, a gesture of imperial magnanimity, or perhaps one of necessity. As the Goths crossed the Danube, the peaceful surface of the water belied the tumultuous undercurrents below. For this crossing was not merely a migration, it marked a significant shift in the dynamics between Rome and the barbarian world. The Goths, once on the Roman side, would find their hopes shattered by the harsh realities of resettlement, sparking tensions that would soon ignite into open conflict. Thus, with the crossing of the Danube, the stage was set for a series of confrontations that would reshape the destiny of Rome itself, as the empire's capacity to contain and assimilate was put to a severe test. In the sultry summer of AD 378, the rolling plains near the city of Adrianople became the stage for one of history's most decisive confrontations. Here, the Roman Empire would meet the advancing Goths, led by their determined chieftain, Fritigern. As the sun reached its zenith, Roman legions, resplendent in their armor but weary from a long march, assembled under the command of Emperor Valens. The Romans, confident in their martial prowess, underestimated the Gothic resolve and the strategic insights of Fritigern, who had taken full advantage of the terrain and the elements. The Goths, bolstered by their cavalry and the fervor of their cause, prepared to face the might of Rome with a courage born of desperation. As the battle commenced, the disciplined Roman lines clashed against the fervent Gothic charge. Dust and cries filled the air, a cacophony of strife that echoed across the ages. In the searing heat, the Roman formations faltered, beset by the relentless onslaught of their foes. Emperor Valens, steadfast amidst the chaos, found himself surrounded, and as the sun dipped towards the horizon, he fell, a ruler lost within the tumult of history. The Battle of Adrianople was a watershed, a moment where the invincible aura of the Roman legions was irreparably shattered. This defeat reverberated through the empire, signaling a profound shift in the balance of power. Henceforth, Rome would face new realities, as the tides of fortune swayed and the empire's grip on its territories began to loosen, ushering in an era of uncertainty and change. In the wake of Adrianople, a new figure emerged from the ranks of the Gothic tribes, a leader whose vision and acumen would leave a lasting mark on the annals of history. Alaric I, a young and charismatic chieftain, rose to prominence among the Visigoths, driven by a singular goal: to secure a place for his people within the Roman world. Alaric, astute and ambitious, understood the changing tides of power. He recognized the fractures within the Roman Empire, the weaknesses that lay beneath its imperial veneer. With a keen eye, he navigated the shifting alliances and politics of his time, seeking to negotiate a settlement that would ensure the welfare and autonomy of the Visigoths. He led his people through the provinces, a journey marked by both conflict and negotiation. Alaric's path was one of both conquest and diplomacy, as he sought to integrate his warriors into the imperial fabric while asserting their independence. His approach was emblematic of a new era, where the lines between Roman and barbarian blurred and new identities emerged from the crucible of history. Under Alaric's leadership, the Visigoths would become a formidable force, their journey underscoring the complexities of a world in transition. Alaric himself was a harbinger of the changes to come, a symbol of the new power dynamics that would define the late Roman Empire. His story is one of determination and vision, set against the backdrop of an empire grappling with its own transformation. As the external threats loomed at Rome's borders, the empire faced an equally pernicious challenge from within: its own internal decay. The heart of this majestic empire, once the epitome of governance and civic virtue, now found itself ensnared in a web of corruption and political intrigue. The once sacred institutions of the Senate and the administration were beset by the ambitions of men more concerned with personal gain than the welfare of the state. Political offices, once the domain of merit, became commodities traded in the backrooms of power, poisoning the roots of Roman authority. The emperors themselves, often shadowed by courtly machinations, struggled to maintain control. The empire's vast bureaucracy, a marvel of Roman engineering, crumbled under the weight of inefficiency and graft. As resources dwindled and legions found themselves stretched perilously thin, the ability of Rome to project its power waned. In the provinces, the echoes of this decay reverberated, as local leaders, sensing the ebb of imperial influence, began to assert their own dominion. The unity of Rome, once held together by an iron will, now threatened to fracture, its cohesion undermined by the very forces it had cultivated. Thus, as the empire contended with the challenges of a changing world beyond its borders, it faced an equally profound struggle within, a struggle against the creeping rot that gnawed at the foundations of its grandeur. In this somber dance of decline, Rome's fate was sealed, not by the sword, but by the slow unraveling of its own empire from within. In the waning centuries of the Roman Empire, a profound transformation began to unfurl across its vast expanse. As the old gods of Rome watched, perhaps with waning interest, a new faith was quietly taking root, a faith that would blossom into Christianity, reshaping the cultural and spiritual landscape of the era. From the heart of Judea, the message of simplicity, humility, and salvation began its journey, carried forth by apostles and converts, reaching the furthest corners of the empire. This shift heralded not just a religious metamorphosis, but a societal one, as temples gave way to churches and polytheistic rituals yielded to monotheistic worship. The Edict of Milan in AD 313, under Emperor Constantine, unfurled the banner of tolerance for this burgeoning religion, allowing it to emerge from the shadows and bask in the light of imperial favor. Constantine's own conversion marked a pivotal moment, as the imperial court itself began to reflect the growing Christian ethos. Monastic communities flourished, nurturing the intellectual and spiritual life of the empire. Yet amidst these hopeful stirrings, tensions simmered. Pagan traditions, deeply woven into the fabric of Roman life, struggled against the encroaching tide of change. The old and the new danced a delicate pas de deux, as the empire, in a bold act of cultural rebirth, began its transformation into a new age. This cultural shift, while a beacon of hope for many, also laid the groundwork for an empire reshaped by the forces of faith and belief, setting the stage for a world where the divine and the temporal would entwine inextricably. In the twilight of Rome's imperial grandeur, one figure emerged who would stand as a bulwark against the encroaching darkness, a general named Stilicho. Born of Vandal descent in AD 359, Stilicho was woven into the fabric of Roman power through his marriage to Serena, the niece of Emperor Theodosius I. His life, a testament to the complexities of loyalty and leadership, unfolded against a backdrop of increasing peril. As the Magister Militum, Stilicho held the formidable task of defending the Western Roman Empire from a cacophony of threats. His campaigns were marked by both cunning and compassion, as he sought not only to repel the barbarians at the gates, but also to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics. His greatest challenge came in the form of Alaric and the Visigoths, whose restless ambitions threatened to breach the empire's defenses. Stilicho's strategy was one of diplomacy, intertwined with warfare, seeking alliances where possible and battle where necessary. Despite his efforts, his tenure was fraught with intrigue and betrayal, as political machinations within the Roman court conspired against him. Ultimately, Stilicho's fate was sealed by suspicion and mistrust, leading to his execution in AD 48. His death marked the end of an era, the last of the Roman generals who had walked the delicate line between tradition and change, leaving behind a fragile empire, teetering on the brink of oblivion. As the sun dipped below the horizon in August of AD 410, the city of Rome, once the proud heart of a vast empire, found itself shrouded in shadow and silence. This was no ordinary night, for the Visigoths were at the gates, led by their resolute king, Alaric I. The sack of Rome unfolded not with the cacophony of battle, but with a haunting stillness, as the eternal city fell to an enemy's embrace. 3 days of plunder and despair followed, as the Visigoths moved through the streets, taking what they could, leaving in their wake a city stripped of its illusions of invincibility. It was a somber moment in the annals of history, a reminder of the fragility of even the most enduring realms. Alaric's forces, though powerful, were not motivated by simple conquest. Theirs was a mission born of necessity, impelled by the need for land and sustenance. For Rome, the sack was a profound shock, a rupture in the continuum of its existence. It signified more than just the loss of treasure or the humiliation of defeat. It was a deep, existential wound that reverberated throughout the Roman world. As the Visigoths departed, leaving the city to its wounded pride, the echoes of their triumph whispered of an empire in decline, of power once unassailable, now vulnerable to the tides of history. In the midst of Rome's storied decline, the economic foundations of the empire began to erode, an insidious process that unfolded quietly yet inexorably. The empire, vast and demanding, found itself burdened by the weight of its own ambitions. Inflation, a pernicious foe, gnawed at the stability of Rome's currency, as the relentless minting of coins devalued their worth, creating a ripple of discontent among its people. The economy, once buoyed by the largesse of conquests, faltered as expansion slowed, and prosperity became a distant memory. The reliance on slave labor, while a pillar of Roman society, created a chasm in productivity, stifling innovation and growth. Meanwhile, the army, Rome's shield and sword, demanded ever-increasing funds, draining the coffers, and compelling emperors to levy taxes that weighed heavily upon the populace. The intricate web of trade, which once bound the empire in a tapestry of wealth, began to fray, as piracy and barbarian incursions disrupted the flow of goods. Land, overcultivated and exhausted, yielded less and less, adding to the chorus of woes. Yet amidst this decline there was a sense of stoic resilience, a belief that Rome might yet endure, navigating the stormy seas of misfortune. But time, indifferent to human aspiration, continued its relentless march as the empire, caught in the grip of economic decline, edged ever closer to its twilight. In the mid-5th century, a new threat loomed on the horizon, a people known as the Vandals, whose rise to prominence would cast a long, tense shadow over a beleaguered Rome. Led by their ambitious king, Genseric, the Vandals, in AD 429, crossed into North Africa, carving out a kingdom from the remnants of Roman territories. Their presence was a harbinger of change, as they swiftly adapted to their new land, establishing Carthage as a formidable power base. From there, the Vandals took to the seas, their ships becoming the scourge of the Mediterranean, disrupting trade routes and instilling fear along the coasts. In AD 455, the Vandals reached the apex of their threat as they sailed to Rome itself. Unlike previous sieges, their arrival was marked by negotiation, Genseric promising the Pope that the city would be spared the horrors of murder and destruction if it offered no resistance. Yet for 2 weeks, the Vandals methodically stripped Rome of its treasures and wealth. It was a tense dance of power and vulnerability, a testament to the shifting tides of fortune. The sack of Rome by the Vandals signaled not only the material plundering of the city, but also underscored the empire's inability to protect itself from external threats. It was an era of tension, where the old order quaked under the weight of its challenges, forced to confront the harsh realities of a world transformed by the relentless force of change. In the sweeping plains of Central Asia, a force emerged, both relentless and fearsome, heralding the twilight of Rome's dominion. Attila, leader of the Huns, a figure both dreaded and enigmatic, rose from the steppes to cast a shadow upon the Roman Empire. As the 5th century unfurled, his name became synonymous with terror, his very presence an omen of destruction. Attila, often called the Scourge of God, wielded his power with a singular brutality that knew no equal. His invasions ravaged the Roman provinces, each incursion more devastating than the last, as he swept through the lands like a tempest. The Visigoths and Ostrogoths alike had felt his wrath, and now the heart of the Roman world trembled at his approach. The ground beneath them seemed to quake with the thundering of hooves as his vast cavalry crossed the Danube and Rhine, breaching the boundaries of Roman fortitude. In this time of tumult, fear spread like wildfire, gripping the hearts of the citizens from distant outposts to the very gates of Rome itself. Yet Attila was as much a diplomat as a warrior, his cunning matched only by his ferocity. He played the politics of fear with deft precision, extracting tributes and concessions from a beleaguered empire, while his ferocious raids spoke louder than any emissary could. As the empire strained under his relentless assault, the specter of its own demise loomed ever closer, driven, in part, by the indomitable will of this one man. As the 5th century unfolded, the unyielding structure of Roman authority began to show signs of decay, like fissures spreading across an ancient edifice. The once steadfast grip of Rome on its domains weakened, its influence eroded by internal strife and the growing might of outsiders long deemed barbarian. This mysterious ebb of power was not sudden, but a slow, inexorable tide that turned against the empire. The Germanic tribes, once merely neighbors beyond the limes, now emerged as potent forces within, their leaders rising to prominence amidst the chaos. From the Rhine to the Danube, the visage of leadership transformed, with figures such as Alaric of the Visigoths and Theodoric of the Ostrogoths, who navigated the complex landscape of imperial politics with astute cunning. The allegiance of these leaders was as fluid as the era's shifting sands, their ambitions carving new paths through the remnants of Roman grandeur. The court of Rome, once a beacon of power, became a tangled web of intrigue, where alliances were as transient as the winds and loyalties altered like the stars in the night sky. In this epoch of uncertainty, the symbol of Rome's eternal supremacy faltered, overshadowed by the rising influence of those it once called adversaries. The empire, once an indomitable force, now stood on the precipice of transformation, its fate interwoven with the ambitions of those it could no longer control. The Roman Empire, standing at the precipice of oblivion, summoned its final reserves of strength in a desperate attempt to stave off the inevitable. In these tense final years, generals and politicians alike played their roles on history's stage, striving to preserve a fractured legacy. The authority of Rome, once as unyielding as the Colosseum stone, now rested in the hands of men like Flavius Aetius, the last of the great Roman generals. Known as the last of the Romans, Aetius fought valiantly to uphold the empire's fading glory, earning his place in the annals of history with his victories and alliances. Yet even as such men battled valiantly, their efforts were often thwarted by internal discord and external pressures. The Roman Senate, enfeebled by years of corruption and indecision, struggled to maintain unity, its corridors echoing with debates that led nowhere. Amidst this turmoil, the empire sought salvation through diplomacy, forming fragile treaties with barbarian leaders who now held sway over vast territories once under Roman dominion. In the twilight of its reign, Rome's once mighty legions dwindled, their ranks filled with mercenaries whose loyalties lay not with the empire, but with gold. As each frontier fell, the heart of the empire beat ever fainter, a testament to both the resilience and the futility of Rome's last stand. This desperate hour, fraught with tension and uncertainty, marked the closing act of an empire that had once claimed to be eternal. In the waning light of empire, Ravenna stood as a bastion of Roman resilience, its marshy environs providing a natural defense against external threats. As the capital of the Western Roman Empire in its final years, Ravenna embodied both the hope and the futility of preserving what once was. The city flourished as a center of culture and politics, its churches adorned with mosaics glittering with the fading brilliance of imperial art. But beneath this veneer of splendor, the tide of change surged relentlessly. The majestic palace of Honorius echoed with the footsteps of emperors who dared to dream of restoration, even as the world crumbled around them. Here, in the shadow of the Apennines, the ebb of Roman authority was palpably felt, a poignant reminder of glory slipping away. The walls of Ravenna, strong and resolute, became a refuge for those who sought to hold back the tide of dissolution. Alas, it was here that the empire's fate was sealed, when Odoacer, a chieftain of the Heruli, deposed the last Roman emperor, casting the shadow of the Middle Ages over Europe. The fall of Ravenna was not just a military defeat, but a symbolic end, marking the transition from ancient grandeur to medieval obscurity. It was the twilight of Rome, both somber and inevitable, a poignant requiem for an era that had defined the world. In the year AD 476, a moment of profound significance unfolded, marking the final curtain of the Western Roman Empire. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus, a name curiously echoing the city's legendary founder, signaled the end of an era. This young emperor, scarcely more than a pawn in the hands of powerful men, found himself at the heart of an empire teetering on the brink. His rule was but a shadow of former glory, a brief flicker against the backdrop of historical inevitability. Odoacer, a barbarian warlord of great ambition, emerged as the harbinger of this new age. With the forceful removal of Romulus, the imperial insignia was dispatched to Constantinople, a relic of authority now diminished. The act was both somber and symbolic, a tacit acknowledgement that the Western Roman Empire had breathed its last. Italy, once the heart of an empire that spanned continents, fell under the rule of this new, non-Roman king, ushering in a period of profound transformation. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus did not merely mark the fall of a city or a ruler, but the end of an epoch, the closing of a chapter that had shaped the very contours of civilization. As dusk settled on the empire, a new dawn rose over Europe, one shaped by the myriad cultures and kingdoms that would rise from Rome's ashes. In the hushed corridors of time, the legacy of Rome stands as a timeless testament to an empire that once encompassed the known world. The enduring influence of Rome transcends the centuries, weaving its legacy into the very fabric of modern civilization. From the hallowed halls of governance, where the echoes of Roman law and republican ideals still resonate, to the majestic arches and columns gracing our cities, the spirit of Rome remains ever present. The concept of a republic, a government for and by the people, finds its roots deeply embedded in Roman soil, providing a blueprint that modern democracies continue to follow. Roman law, with its emphasis on justice and equity, laid the foundational stones for legal systems across the globe. In architecture, the grandiose visions of Roman engineers continue to inspire, with the immortal forms of aqueducts, amphitheaters, and basilicas reflected in our own monumental structures. Yet beyond the physical and institutional, it is the Roman spirit of innovation, adaptation, and resilience that endures. In every corner of the world, where roads converge and cultures intermingle, the whispers of Rome's grandeur persist, a hopeful reminder of humanity's capacity for greatness. As the Western Roman Empire faded into the shadows of history, its Eastern counterpart emerged as a beacon of continuity and transformation. The Eastern Roman Empire, known to posterity as the Byzantine Empire, carried forth the torch of Rome, illuminating the world with its vibrant culture and strategic prowess. Nestled in the ancient city of Constantinople, the Byzantines cultivated a society where Greek wisdom and Roman governance coalesced, crafting a unique tapestry of cultural richness. The golden domes of Hagia Sophia rose against the azure skies, a sublime testament to Byzantine architectural genius and spiritual devotion. It was here that the fusion of Eastern and Western traditions gave birth to a civilization marked by scholarly pursuits and artistic achievements. In the serene chambers of its libraries, ancient manuscripts whispered the secrets of classical antiquity to eager minds. Through centuries of challenges and triumphs, the Byzantine Empire served as a guardian of Roman heritage, while simultaneously nurturing its own distinct identity. Thus, in the calm waters of history, the Eastern Roman Empire remains a symbol of resilience and adaptation, a bridge between past and present. In the aftermath of Rome's fall, a mosaic of new kingdoms emerged from the remnants of imperial splendor. These were the realms of the so-called barbarians, tribes once on Rome's fringes, now masters of its former territories. The Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Vandals, and Franks, each with their own traditions, began the intricate dance of cultural integration and adaptation. The rulers of these nascent kingdoms adopted the Roman art of governance, blending it with their own customs to forge new political entities. The once foreign concepts of Roman law and administration found strange yet harmonious echoes in these lands. The halls of power witnessed the confluence of Roman influence and barbarian vigor, producing societies that were neither wholly Roman nor entirely alien. In the fertile fields of Gaul, the seeds of the Frankish kingdom sprouted, nourished by the legacy of Rome and the strength of its people. Amidst the calm transformation, a new Europe took shape, where the ancient threads of Roman civilization were woven into the fabric of emerging cultures. Thus, in the quiet evolution of time, these barbarian kingdoms stand as a testament to the enduring adaptability of human society. As the Roman Empire crumbled, a profound transformation swept across the spiritual landscape of Western Europe. The fall of Rome gave rise to a new dawn, where the light of Christianity began to illuminate the hearts and minds of its people. From the ashes of the imperial order, the Christian church emerged as a beacon of stability and hope. In monastic communities nestled in serene landscapes, dedicated monks preserved the wisdom of the ancients and the teachings of their faith. Here, amidst the tranquil cloisters, the seeds of European intellectual revival were sown, cultivating a culture of learning and contemplation. The spread of Christianity wove a common thread of belief across disparate lands, uniting diverse tribes under a shared spiritual banner. As cathedrals rose towards the heavens, they proclaimed a new era where faith would guide the hearts of rulers and common folk alike. This religious transformation, marked by the gentle spread of monasticism and the unifying power of the Church, laid the foundations for a Europe shaped by spiritual resilience and cultural rebirth. In the hopeful embrace of faith, a new world emerged from the shadow of the past, forever changed, yet eternally connected to its Roman roots. Amid the waning days of the Roman Empire, a tension grew within the ranks of its once mighty legions. The Roman army, a formidable force forged through centuries of disciplined might, found itself increasingly reliant on the very people it had once sought to subdue. Barbarian troops, drawn from the Germanic tribes and other frontier peoples, began to fill the ranks, altering the character of the Roman military machine. This integration of barbarian warriors brought both strength and uncertainty, as these soldiers bore loyalties that lay beyond the bounds of Rome. The martial traditions of these tribes, while fierce and proud, clashed with the disciplined order of the Roman legions. As Rome struggled to maintain its borders against relentless incursions, the reliance on these troops became a double-edged sword. The armies of Rome, once the embodiment of imperial power, now faced internal conflicts and a shifting sense of identity. The tense interplay of Roman tactics and barbarian might underscored the vulnerabilities of an empire in decline. In the twilight of Roman supremacy, the military's transformation mirrored the broader changes sweeping across the empire, heralding the end of an era and the dawn of a tumultuous new age. In the quiet echoes of Roman marketplaces, one can still perceive the whispers of a world that shaped the very fabric of European economies for centuries to come. The Roman Empire, with its vast network of roads and aqueducts, laid the groundwork for trade and commerce, stretching across a continent once fragmented by disparity. At the heart of this economic might was a sophisticated system of taxation and a currency that flowed as freely as the rivers connecting the empire's farthest reaches. Even as Rome limped toward its twilight, the the skeleton of its economic structure endured, influencing the fledgling systems of medieval Europe. Roads, now overgrown with the wild foliage of neglect, still guided merchants and travelers. The Roman denarius, though faded into history, set a standard that echoed through the currencies of future realms. As we journey through the remnants of this ancient society, we uncover the timelessness of their economic innovations. The empire taught Europe to cultivate the earth, to sow seeds of prosperity even in the shadow of decline. In the decay of Rome, a legacy of economic resilience emerged, sowing seeds of hope that would one day blossom into a new era of renaissance and enlightenment. In the corridors of time, where the echoes of empires linger, we find ourselves drawn to Constantinople, the city that once stood as the proud jewel of Byzantium. Yet, even as the Roman Empire fractured, Constantinople remained a beacon of imperial resilience, a city of walls and domes that held the line against time's inexorable march. But the threads of history weave a complex tapestry, and not even the mightiest of cities can withstand forever. As we cast our minds forward to the fateful year of 1453, we glimpse the shadows of the Ottoman forces gathering on the horizon. The siege that would ensue marks not just the fall of a city, but the end of an era. In this somber reflection, we witness the continuity and change from Rome to Byzantium, a tale of endurance met with inevitable transformation. Yet, even in its fall, Constantinople bequeathed to the future a legacy of culture and knowledge, a bridge between worlds, poised to inspire the Renaissance and color the dawn of a new age. As the Roman Empire neared its decline, unseen forces stirred within the natural world. The climate, a subtle yet powerful actor, began to shift, casting a mysterious pall over the land. Winters grew harsher, summers less forgiving. The mighty Tiber, once a gift to the city of Rome, now ran capriciously, sometimes in drought, other times in flood. Beyond the borders of the empire, tribes once distant embarked on migrations, driven by the same climatic shifts that troubled the Roman heartland. These pressures, both natural and human, conspired to fray the fabric of an empire already strained. In the vastness of nature's mystery, we find the story of Rome's decline interwoven with the earth's own rhythms. Natural disasters like the wrathful Vesuvius or the creeping desertification in Africa compounded the empire's vulnerabilities. Yet, these were not mere harbingers of doom, but reminders of humanity's enduring dance with the environment, a dance that demands both respect and resilience. As the curtain fell on the Roman Empire, a new world began to stir from its slumber. In the absence of centralized authority, the seeds of feudalism took root in the fertile soil of uncertainty. This transformation, gradual and nuanced, reshaped the societal landscape of Europe, where local lords offered protection in exchange for service and loyalty. In the quiet dawn of this medieval order, the power once held by emperors now scattered like stars across the night sky, each noble a constellation in their own right. The bonds of fealty and the fiefdoms they governed became the new currency of power, repurposing remnants of Roman law and custom to suit their needs. Thus, amidst the ruins of a great empire, a new social contract was forged. It was a system born not from conquest or ambition, but from the simple necessity to survive and thrive in a world reshaped by the fall of Rome. In this calm emergence of feudalism, we find both continuity and innovation, a testament to humanity's enduring quest for order amid the chaos of change. The landscapes that once bore witness to Roman triumphs grew quieter, as the march of time ushered in an era of transformation. The bustling cities, once vibrant with the hum of commerce and the clamor of public life, began to wither as the pulse of empire slowed. Streets, where once the sandals of Roman legions trod, lay in silence, overgrown and forgotten. The countryside, too, bore the scars of change. Vast estates, once teeming with laborers, now lay fallow, their owners long vanished. Nature reclaimed the land, and forests crept over fields once plowed with Roman precision. Yet in this somber scene of decay, we find not just an ending, but the quiet persistence of life adapting. The cities may have faded, but in their shadows arose new communities, breathing life into the old stones. The transformation of the Roman landscape tells a story not just of decline, but of rebirth. As the remnants of empire gave way to the seeds of new beginnings, shaping the world in ways unforeseen by those who once ruled. In the shadowy twilight of antiquity, as the Western Roman Empire crumbled into a patchwork of successor states, a new bastion of power began to rise. The Christian Church, once a marginalized sect persecuted under Roman law, emerged as a beacon of hope and stability amid the ruins. Its ascension was neither rapid nor easy. It was a slow, determined march through the corridors of time. With each passing decade, the Church weaved itself into the very fabric of society, its influence seeping through the cracks left by Rome's decline. Bishops, often the most learned men of their time, took on roles that transcended the spiritual. They became arbiters of justice, stewards of cities, and advisors to kings. From the relics of Roman grandeur, the Church built its own edifice of influence, a structure founded on faith and fortified by the promise of salvation. It provided a unifying creed that transcended the fractured identities of post-imperial Europe, offering solace to those seeking refuge from the chaos of change. As the Western Empire's last embers faded, the Church lit a new flame, one that would guide future generations through the darkened corridors of history. Its role was not merely that of a caretaker of souls, but of a custodian of Roman legacy, preserving its administrative acumen while reshaping its moral compass. Thus, as the old empire breathed its last, a new spiritual empire arose, offering hope, continuity, and the whispered promise of eternal life. In the quiet corners of libraries and the hallowed halls of art, the memory of Rome lingers like a specter from a distant past. It is a tapestry woven with threads of grandeur and myth, a testament to an empire that once spanned the known world. Rome's enduring legacy casts a long shadow across the ages, its echoes heard in the prose of philosophers and the brushstrokes of artists. The myth of Rome has morphed and evolved, a beacon of inspiration for countless generations. From Virgil's epic poetry to the political machinations of Renaissance thinkers, the idea of Rome has served as both muse and model. Its legacy, a complex interplay of power and virtue, presents a narrative of decline and resurgence, of ruin and rebirth. Within this context, the city of Rome stands as both a ruin and a revelation, a living museum where marble statues whisper tales of past glories. The enduring fascination with Rome's grandeur speaks to a universal longing for order, a yearning to understand the forces that shape our world. The very stones of the city, worn and weathered, have become symbols of resilience, their presence a constant reminder of the empire's monumental influence. Thus, in memory, Rome persists, not merely as an ancient relic, but as a timeless muse, inspiring dreams of empire, of civilization, and of human potential. Over the centuries, historians have cast their gaze upon the fall of Rome, seeking to unravel the mysteries of its demise. Each scholar brings with them the lens of their own time, interpreting the past through the prism of their present. Edward Gibbon, in the 18th century, famously chronicled the decline in his magnum opus, attributing the fall to the erosion of civic virtue and the rise of Christianity. His narrative, grand and sweeping, painted a picture of inevitable decay. Yet, as history marched on, new perspectives emerged. 20th century historians, armed with the tools of archaeology and sociology, offered alternative views. They saw not a singular collapse, but a transformation, a transition from the classical to the medieval. These scholars spoke of economic shifts, barbarian migrations, and the internal fragmentation of an overstretched empire. Today, the conversation continues, as contemporary historians delve into the complexities of Rome's fall, with fresh insights and methodologies. They ponder the interconnectedness of global events, examining how climate change, pandemics, and political upheaval played roles in Rome's transformation. In this ongoing dialogue, the fall of Rome becomes not merely an ending, but a multifaceted story of change. It is a reminder of the impermanence of empires, a reflection on the cycles of history that continue to shape the world long after the dust of ancient cities has settled. From the annals of history, the fall of Rome offers a rich tapestry of lessons in governance and resilience. As the mighty empire dissolved into fragments, it revealed the fragility of power unchecked by adaptability. The Roman experience teaches us the necessity of evolution in the face of shifting paradigms. Governance, once rigid and centralized, needed to adapt to the changing tides of society and economy. The fall reminds us of the perils of overexpansion, where the reach of empire outstrips the capacity for effective control. Yet, it also speaks to the resilience of human institutions, the ability to withstand the cataclysms of time and emerge transformed. From the ashes of Rome, new polities arose, learning from the past, borrowing from its successes while striving to avoid its failures. The Church, for instance, carried forward administrative practices that provided a semblance of continuity amidst the chaos. In these lessons lies a profound understanding of the intricate dance between power and survival, an ongoing dialogue between history's actors and their circumstances. As we ponder these reflections, we see not just the fall of an empire, but the enduring spirit of adaptation, a testament to the resilience that defines the human condition, ever striving to learn and to grow in the face of history's relentless march. As we reach the quiet conclusion of our journey through history, we reflect on the enduring legacy of the Roman Empire. Though its physical dominion has long since crumbled into dust, its spirit continues to shape the contours of our world. From the foundations of law and governance to the echoes of Latin in our languages, Rome's influence pervades the tapestry of modern life. In the architecture of capitals and the very structure of cities, we see the imprint of Roman ingenuity. The idea of Rome persists as a symbol of unity and civilization, a beacon of potential that inspires nations to envision greatness. The Roman Empire, in its rise and fall, offers a narrative of human aspiration, the quest for order, for justice, and for progress. Its legacy is not simply one of conquest and administration, but of cultural synthesis, a blending of peoples and ideas that forged a lasting identity. In contemplating the enduring empire, we are reminded of the power of legacy, of the ways in which the past continues to inform the present. As we close this chapter, we carry with us the understanding that Rome, in its myriad forms, remains a guiding star. It shines through the ages, an eternal reminder of the heights to which civilizations can aspire and the enduring impact they can leave upon the world.